As you can see, the window motor won't pull this window all the way down. We're going to pull the door panel and do some diagnosis. To pull the door panel, we have to be very careful. It's a combination of clips and screws, and everything's plastic. So first, we're going to pull the switch plate. We're going to lift the front out and then slide the back. That's the clip that I'm talking about right there that goes into the plastic. We'll unplug all the switches. Be careful, those plastic clips are brittle. Now we're going to pop the corner cover off, and it's a smooth motion to unhook these two clips. We're going to look to make sure there are no hidden screws on the lower portion of the door panel. This is where it gets tricky. Ease that plastic clip off the lens cover. There's a screw hidden behind there. There's also one up by the handle. These screws have a 7mm head on them. Use your 1/4 inch set. Once these screws are out, we don't need a tool to pry the door panel out. What we're going to end up doing is lifting straight up on the door panel. When you do this, grab it and just lift. It's just that easy. The wiring for the switch plate needs to come through the handle, and don't forget there's the light bulb that goes into that lens. Be really careful with these plastic tabs. You don't want to break those by pulling outward. That's why it lifts straight up. Now, take this protective coating off to access the inside of the door. Be careful not to rip it up because you're going to put that back. Take the speaker out, and that's going to give you access to that front window run. Once we get that speaker out, we're going to unplug it and set it out of the way. We're going to pull the window run, and we're going to make sure there's nothing wrong with it to be sure it's not torn or split. I'm just going to pull that run loose from the channel and pull it out the speaker hole. Give it a thorough look-see and make sure nothing's going on. There's nothing wrong here, so we're going to put that back in the channel, and then we'll check the window run on the back. We're going to do that the same way. We'll loosen this up, take out that bolt so we can get a little bit better feel for what we're working on. We used a 10mm socket to loosen up that bolt, and that's going to let us pull that channel a bit forward so we can get the window run out. This run's a lot more difficult to see, so we're going to pull it through this hole to get a better look to make sure it's not torn. This one looks good too, so we'll put that back and get ready to pull the window regulator. To pull the regulator out, we need to get this front window channel loose. These are the same bolts with the 10mm heads that were on the back. Once we get these loose, that's going to allow the window to come down and have a little bit of movement. We're going to have to bring this window down and line it up so we can take the two nuts off that hold the window to the regulator. Use the switch and slowly bring it down until that forward nut lines up with that hole. We're going to stick our ratchet through there, and we're going to take that loose. There's one on the back side also. I always use 1/4 inch drive just because it fits into tighter places and it doesn't have the brute force that bigger stuff does. Be careful when you take the window loose because it's going to want to fall down. We're going to need to lift that window out of the way and secure it so we can work on the regulator. These nuts are lock nuts, and it takes a little bit to get them loose. Next, we're going to take these bolts out, and that's what mounts the regulator to the door. 10mm heads, and we're going to leave one of these partially in, and it's going to be able to slide out for us. That's because this is a bit awkward and it can be heavy. These nuts right here are another part that we're going to need to loosen up. Leave that bolt in to take the weight. Once these nuts are loose, we're going to be able to move that and start to take that regulator out. Don't forget to unplug the motor. Now you can move that remaining bolt out of the way. And the regulator assembly is going to come right out through that large access hole. Now that we've got the regulator out, let's identify some of the parts so we can compare it to the new one. You want to make sure that you've got the exact same piece because these are left and right specific. The new Dorman part that we got comes with a motor on it, and it also has hardware. The heads of the bolts and the nuts are the same as what were on the old piece. We're going to identify some of these parts just so you know what's going on with that old unit and why it was sticking. We know that we can install this with these bolts in place because it had the large slide holes in the door. So we're only going to back these off a bit. I want to show you what some of the parts are on here, and specifically what hooks to the window glass. Looking at this close up, you can see that there are slide holes made in this as well. We want to make sure there's lubrication on that track because that's why it was binding before. Now we need something to help with the weight as the window goes up, and that's what this big spring on the back's all about. Show this thing some respect because if it comes off there and that motor's not in, it can get you. It can push that regulator up and pinch your fingers real easy.